Hey guys, this is Tony Varelli with 3D Locksport here, and today I'm coming at you with a new release. This is for a product that I've been working on and prototyping for probably about 2 months now. I've had a lot of requests for people asking if I make kick holders or SFIC holders or mortise cylinder holders, just tons of holders. And I know there's a lot of holders out there on the market that do one or the other. But I wanted to create something that was an all-in-one. And not only that was all-in-one, but that could also be expanded upon as time goes on. So if there's if you make an investment into the lock holder, all we have to do is make another small investment in the future for a different kind of lock. So with that, I'd like to introduce to you the Universal Lock Holder by 3D Locksport. And I want to go over the pieces with you now so you can see all the pieces and how this functions and how they go together. So this is the initial body of it, and if any of you have seen or own my double-ended deadbolt holder, this is based off that body. Now, it is quite a bit larger in diameter, so I have small hands. But if you see me holding it in my hand, I can easily get my hand around that and hold it comfortably in my hand. There are two ends to this. There is the insert end, which I'll show you, and there's a threaded end. So let's go over the threaded end first. What's the threaded end for? This is the plunger. So plunger, plug, whatever you want to call it. I've called it both back and forth with my wife when I talk about it. So what this is this is a threaded insert that goes in the back. And this is for setting the depth. So most locks are pretty much the same depth when you talk about a kick cylinder, or if you talk about a mortise. Some mortises are longer than others, but the big purpose of this one was for Euro cylinders. Some people get half Euros, some people get full Euros. It all depends on what you need. So this was specifically created to be adjustable for multiple different lengths of locks. And the reason it screws in and out, and the purpose of it altogether, is to stop your lock from sliding out the back of the lock holder, which I'll show you why this is needed here in a second. So I'm going to screw this all the way in until it stops at the front. There is a stop point, so it won't come out front. So it's all the way to the front. And you can see that there's a hole in there. And the purpose of that hole is to allow, if you have a lock with a tailpiece still on it, you don't have to remove the tailpiece to use this. It's at a decent diameter and size. It should work for most locks with the tailpiece on. So now that's in, if you look at the front, there's a circle here with a recess, but on one side it's flat. And that flat side is an alignment tool for the inserts. So the whole concept of this is that there's an insert for every lock type. So let me show you the inserts. So we'll start out with probably one of the most popular, which is the kick cylinder, or excuse me, the kick. And this is an insert that goes into the front of the lock. And you can see it, or the lock holder. And as you can see, there's a flat side here on one side. So if I align that with the flat of this, that goes in flush. So now, this is a holder for a kick lock. And let me show you that real quick. So here I have a kick lock. Now I'm going to slide this in the front. Now on some of these kick locks, this ring in the back is wide, or it's not compressed down, so it can be a little too wide to fit through the front. If that's the case for you, you just slide it off and slide the lock in from the back instead of the front. It doesn't really matter one way or another. So I'm going to install this in through the front here and just shove it in. Now that's all the further it goes in because I have this screwed all the way in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to unscrew the tail plunger until this goes completely flush with the front of the face. So now you can see it's completely flush. Now we still have a problem here, and that's this. It's going to fall out if you tip it. So what I created for that is the faceplate. Now the faceplate has a hole cut out of it to fit and accommodate all the cylinder or all the lock types. It's got a nice round, smoothed edge, and it's as thin as it possibly can be while still being structurally sound. And all you do is pop this faceplate over the front. It just slides on with a pressure fit. You can still fully access your lock, and you no longer have a problem with it coming out. Now you can hear the lock's loose, and that's because I don't have the tailpiece all the way forward. So all I do is screw the tailpiece forward slowly until I feel stop. There, I felt it stop. So now the lock is fully snug in there. It's not going to move in or out. and it's fine. And what I would normally suggest is to loosen it back by a quarter of a turn. And that just allows, otherwise the back of this could be pressing against the back end of the lock and make it hard to open. So that 1/4 of a turn is enough to get it loose enough. So now you have a lock that works perfectly for all of your kick locks. And it holds it nice and tight. And this will work in the hand. It's hard to show on this, but in the hand like this. So if you're doing top of the keyway, you can hold it like this with top of the keyway. If you're doing bottom of the keyway, you just rotate it in your hand with bottom of the keyway. And the cool thing about this is, other than being good to hold in your hands, because of the flat sides, this works absolutely perfect within your vise. So you just slide this into your vise like such, tighten it down, and you're set to go. So this will lock in. You can see how nice and tight that grips in there. It'll lock in your vise perfectly. So let's go on and show you what other kind of locks that the universal lock holder currently supports. So right now we have, like I said, the kick in there. Just take the faceplate off. Gonna pull the whole insert and the kick lock out. Now, like I showed you, if it doesn't come to the front, you can also shove it to the back. It doesn't really matter. It'll work either way. So we have kick. The second I'll show you is Euro. So I have a half Euro here. It's not a full Euro. But here's the Euro insert. So I'll put that in. Again, I'm lining up the flat side inside the holder with the flat side of the insert. And what this does is once it's in, the insert can't rotate as you apply pressure to it. So that's the whole point of that. Then we take our Euro cylinder, or Euro lock, and slide it in. And again, you can see that doesn't go all the way in because it's longer than my kick was. So I'm just going to loosen this again till it's flush. Right it there. Go ahead and put the cap on. And I'm going to tighten it back up until I feel it stop, which is right there. And I'll give it a quarter of a turn just to loosen it just a little bit so the back doesn't get stuck on it. And that's it. You're set to go. You can now pick your Euro lock in the same holder. All you have to do for quick swapping is take the cap off, take the lock out, take the insert out, and move on to your next lock type. So the next lock type I'll show you is SFIC. So again, insert's exactly the same. It's just got a different setting. And this SFIC actually has a lip on it so it can catch on that to stop. So actually, if you put a SFIC lock in like so, let me make sure I have this lined up properly. Yep. It'll actually stop itself. So you're all set to put it in there. Then you insert the flat with the flat, and you're good to go. Now you don't actually have to worry about this one. The tailpiece on this one actually doesn't matter. You can tighten it up as you want if you want to get a tighter fit in the back, but because of this lip on the front, it won't slip through. Now some of your locks may not have that lip, which means you'll still need the tailpiece, but you're good to go. So all we do is put the cap on again, and you're set to go. The lock stays in. There's always some part of the lock that will be caught by this cap, or the face cap, but your lock is always still easily accessible through that hole. So again, that's SFIC. Take those out. And then the last one I currently have designed is for mortise cylinders. So I have two mortise cylinders I'm going to show. So I have this one right here and this one right here. And you can see that the backs of them, this is probably your more standard mortise cylinder type, and this is an older style type that I haven't seen before, but they're different enough that you can see that they work on different types. So if I set that one there and this one here and grab the mortise cylinder holder. Now the mortise cylinder holder, you'll notice all mortise cylinders have these grooves on the sides. They all do. So what this is a wide open area with the two grooves towards the back sticking in. And again, that's so when you put the mortise cylinder in, the mortise cylinder doesn't just rotate with inside the holder or the insert. So we put the insert inside the lock, and I'll take this first one right here, insert it in, and now you're good to go. It's in there. Now, for mortise cylinders, when you're working with them, you don't as much need to worry about these falling out the front, forward and backwards. I mean, if you tip them, yeah, they're coming out. But if this is probably more likely to be in a vise or tilted like this. Again, for all these, you don't have to put the faceplate on if it bugs you that much. But the faceplate works just as well for this one. If you put this on like this, it works perfect. And it works pretty well on this. But what I want to show you on this one is, and it's hard to see probably on camera, there's a bevel and it's raised up a little bit. So it does stick out a little bit. So when I take this mortise out and I replace it with this one, it fits just fine. But I don't know if you can see it on this. It just barely, it's not 100% flush with the top. But again, it doesn't affect it when you put the cap on. The cap still fits, it still holds just fine. And one thing a lot of people might be worried about is, well, you know, if I'm raking vigorously on the front of this, am I gonna pop this off? And you know, that was a concern. And that's why it took so long to prototype. I wanted to get it just right. So this is a shameless plug for our rat yoke style handles. This is actually on a Dangerfield Praxis triple rake. So I'm just gonna see if I can not embarrass myself and rake this open pretty quickly inside this lock holder. So I'm gonna hold it just like this, put the rake in, and there we go. Just like that, no problem, completely picked it open. Not an issue at all. It doesn't pop out the front. So this SFIC core is actually out of one of Mako's mortise locks as well. So here's the mortise cylinder for that Mako SFIC. So what I'm gonna do, and what you can see here is there's a massive height difference in these two locks. But again, it still works. So I'm gonna take the control key and open this up here, and then put it back inside the cylinder. Lock it in there. So now it's in, and you can see with the tailpiece on the back, the cam, it still rotates in this, okay? This still fits inside here just fine. Now this is a little longer, so I'm gonna put this down, but this has a lot more bevel on it, like a ton more bevel, and I think you can see that better here. This still fits. It still snaps over. Yeah, it doesn't go as far down, but it still fits perfectly. And even with that cam in the back, you can fully open this lock, left and right. It won't 360, but it hits the sidewall, but it turns enough for you to know that you got an open, and it works perfect for that, and it'll do that on most locks. So, again, you don't have to put the faceplate on, especially if you're putting this in a vise. The only time I would say you're gonna have to put a faceplate on this is if you're raking, because if there's no faceplate, the act of putting this in and pulling out is gonna rock the lock around. Whereas if you put the faceplate on, that stops all the concern about it coming out. It keeps it in place. So that is currently what I have for lock holders for the new universal lock holder. And one of the cool features that when I let someone test this out, I had not originally thought of this idea. The person asked not to be named, so I won't name that person. But while they were testing this, they had it locked up in a vise. And I'm going to screw it in pretty far for this, just because it makes it more stable. They had this locked up in a vise. So I'm going to do that now. And they noticed the hole on the back. Let me get this the way they had it. Just like this. And the back of the plunger here. And they said, you know what would be awesome? Whenever we pick locks these days, especially padlocks, most of us hold it in our hands like this and pick. And that's not necessarily realistic. It's not like it's on a latch, which would be the more common way to find a padlock. So what he did is he realized that the back, let's see if I get this, the back of this lock, or the back of the lock holder, works perfectly for simulating a lock on a latch. So now you can pick it like this, where you wouldn't be able to turn it left or right because of how it is on a latch. And if you want to try it from a different angle, like a weird horizontal latch, you can just rotate the entire lock holder. And now the latch is going left to right, so you have this different setup with it. I never intended for this hole to be there. This hole is literally for putting your finger in and twisting it around faster. But he found this extra use, which I think is awesome because it makes it even more of a universal lock holder. So this video has been long enough, but I wanted to give a full overview, so if you were thinking about buying it, you knew exactly what it was you were getting. And like I said, the cool thing about this system is, although I only have 4 of pretty much what I would call the main inserts right now, I am planning on developing more. And for example, ones I'm working on right now would be rim cylinders with the 2 screw holes in the back. I have a prototype. I'm trying to make it more structurally sound. Right now I'm having problems with the tabs breaking off. So I might switch to actually putting small screws through the back of the plastic to make it more sound. And then the second one I'm working for are for small factor kicks, exactly like inside this padlock, that if you wanted to take it out and work with it outside the padlock, you can. So this in a smaller form factor, it's got some issues with depth that I'm working on figuring out right now as well. But like I said, the beautiful part about this is that if you buy the universal lock holder body, in the future, at a much, much lower cost, you can buy just the individual inserts that will work with this body moving forward. So that's all I have for you today. If this is something you're interested in picking up, go ahead and go over to 3dlocksport.com. And I hope to see your order come through. And if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up on the contact form on the website as well. Thanks for watching.